podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Have you recovered from the bitter disappointment?
Ollie out. He was found out, wasn't he? Just get it straight out there. There are actually surprisingly few Mourinho flat earthers out there. I expected there to be more.
Well, you know what's interesting about this is I had a little peruse of your Twitter timeline, which I do to amuse myself from time to time. And you talk a lot about Mourinho on Twitter. And I was thinking, is this because you're constantly exposed to Mourinho truthers? Or is it because you're trying to win an argument that is over, but it's hard not to keep proving how right we were about him in the aftermath? Because I relate to that. That's not a criticism at all. I relate to that feeling.
Yeah, actually, I do have this in the back of my mind that I should not mention his name every third tweet. So I'm trying not to do that.
But it's hard though, isn't it? There's something about...
Well, I think he set this club back 2 or 3 years. I mean, thinking about last night's game against Paris Saint-Germain, I'm not quite sure what order you want to talk about these
Whatever you like, let's do that first.
But anyway, I like just thinking about it, and I wasn't sure going... I mean, I think my general position is United need 4 recruits in the summer, maybe 5. Given Luke Shaw at left back, and certainly need some cover there, if not a direct replacement or competition, one of them. So 4 or 5, and a lot of that's down to poor recruitment under Mourinho, which we now know he was absolutely insistent on, and in fact was held back by the club, who, for different reasons, we are justified in criticising, but was held back from his true plan, which was basically to stuff the club full of Alexis Sanchez's, like 25 of them.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what my one rant. I don't want to talk about him anymore. Let's talk about Fulham, because that was fun, and then we can get on to the minor disaster of Paris Saint-Germain.
I mean,
you went to Fulham, as did many people. One of everyone's favourite grounds. I haven't been for a few years, but I do love Craven Cottage. Go, tell us what it was like.
I mean, everyone's, I'm sure, seen all the videos and heard everyone talk about it. You might hear some scratchiness in my voice, even though it's Wednesday and that was Saturday afternoon, Saturday lunchtime. It was over by 2:30. I still can't quite talk properly because of having wrecked my voice so badly singing the Ollie song for an insanely long time at an insane volume. It was absolutely amazing. Like, the game... As has been widely discussed, United coughed up some big chances in that game, particularly early on, and then that one that Babel hilariously missed late on once we were really comfortable. But it didn't really feel like that. It didn't feel like United were in jeopardy after about 5 minutes into that game. And certainly once Pogba... I mean, Pogba and Martial both scored their goals from open play at the United end, the Putney Road end, as Chris Smalling gave a very specific shout out to on Instagram. He obviously likes Craven Cottage too. But, both those goals were scored at that end, and they created this incredibly celebratory atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was just such a deeply, profoundly enjoyable experience. And, it was a routine win against the side second bottom from the league. It wasn't about that. It was about how fun it was to watch United play like that, with players that can play like that, and how fun it was to just be in a position where you can kind of unconditionally love and enjoy your club's performance.
Yeah, and I think that's all fair, and you could see that in the very large away support fully enjoying their time at Craven Cottage and celebrating this team and celebrating the manager. I mean, in terms of the actual game, yes, United did get a bit fortunate that Fulham weren't able to put away their 2 good chances. Actually, Fulham had more possession, made more passes in the final third, made ball recoveries, made more tackles, made more interceptions. I mean, this is a game not told in the data, because if you only saw the data, you wouldn't believe what had actually happened. But what has actually happened is that United produced a kind of performance that has become almost routine. I say almost because we'll get to PSG, but almost routine under Ole, which is really, really efficient on the break, and much more efficient taking chances. They do push a lot of players forward in a way that hadn't happened earlier in the season, and they get rewards for it, big rewards in this case.
Yeah, and the rewards came in the form of some really, really remarkable individual play. So the Pogba goal in the moment, it looked unbelievable, but you wouldn't have been surprised to see a replay and it had taken a massive deflection or something. But it didn't. He just rifled it from a ridiculous angle because he saw that the keeper was... I mean, I saw people being very critical of the keeper.
Fair enough. I think it's fair to be critical.
I mean, it's very difficult to legislate for someone who can kick a ball at that speed, with that ferocity, at that angle. Like, I mean, the keeper was a half a step out of position to try and block a cross. No.
Nah, I mean, he should be very near to that post and should be able to react. I mean, it's I like it. What's the XG on that? 0.01, something like that.
Yeah, I'm sure it's fair.
From that angle,
tiny,
so the keeper's got to save that. I think most youth team keepers would save that, but it's still, Pogba's hit it incredibly cleanly.
Yeah, and the reason the keeper couldn't save it wasn't because he didn't react quickly enough. It's because the ball went so fast and he was half a step out of position to start with. No. Anyway, the keeper certainly was not at fault for the second goal, which was a genuinely breathtaking, amazing bit of football. Didn't quite realise at the time how spectacular it was, because it all kind of happened really fast.
Mm-hmm.
And just suddenly aware of Martial with the ball in our half, and he beats one man and one man sort of falls over. He kind of holds one off, and then just tucked it. And it was, but then you see it on the replay, and there's a Phil Jones assist, which is like just a one ball out to Martial deep in his own half.
I think there needs to be a refinement of the assist law or something like. It's not law, but law, as
Law.
in LORE.
Yeah, you go to prison if you don't give Phil Jones that assist.
Yeah, no, he gets 0.2 of an assist for that. I mean, it was an incredible piece of skill, and one of the reasons why United signed him up for another 5 years, obviously, and we all know he can do that, and we want him to do it more. I mean, he's always got that in the locker, but he doesn't always put the constituent parts together. He's part of this game that he needs to develop. The one caveat would be there were some really powder puff tackles. I mean, this is why Fulham concedes so many goals, I guess.
Are you saying that we need Anthony Martial to score more goals that he's dribbled from his own half?
No.
Is that your frustration with him? It's outrageous. He's make all this money and don't dribble a ball from halfway.
No, he's a beautiful finisher and he's a beautiful dribbler, and you want him to put those all together in the game.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to be all at the same time, but obviously if he's going to score one of those every week, fine. But I wouldn't expect that of him. But pretty sloppy defensively, as the one caveat to the greatness of the goal. But it was beautiful. It was beautiful to see. Real shame he couldn't get into the PSG game. But there was more to come from United. From the penalty spot, I think fair enough. Foul on Mata. Am I remembering this correctly?
Yeah, that sounds right. I've only seen the replay once. It was a foul. I'm doing finger quotes.
A little soft.
It was a terrible foul on the innocent victim, Juan Mata.
Yeah, he's he's easy to knock over, isn't he?
So there was
because he's Diddy, and Pogba scored only taking like 5 or 6 steps rather than the 48 that he normally takes on these penalties. Maybe he's like calming that down a little bit.
The funny thing was, everyone the Ole chant. This is when the Ole chant was really going. So obviously, in the first half, it kind of went and faded, and there was lots of chants and all that, and big Tony Marshall chants and everything you would expect. But then that Ole's at the wheel thing hit in the second half, and it just went and went and went until half the end were literally jumping up and down. Then we got a penalty while that was going on. The chant just carries on all the way through the run-up. Like, there's a cheer when we get a penalty, back to the chant, until Pogba's scored, and then there's a little cheer again, and then back to the chant again. I was with friend of the show, Simon Stevens, who said he genuinely thought the chant wasn't going to stop when the ball went in the back of the net. No one was going to cheer. Everyone was just going to keep singing, because that's what it felt like. But it was just brilliant fun. And then after the game, when everyone was coming over and doing the classic waves at the end, that song just got sung until people were spilling out outside back onto that bit, behind the stand at Craven Cottage, and it was just such a kind of just pure joy. I guess partly there was a bit of anticipation for PSG in that, and generally I think it was just another example of the kind of release and gratification of being able to really, really fall in love with the club again.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the kind of routine win that United should be getting.
Yep.
And now generally are,
yep.
Burnley aside. And just the routine win needed a Parc des Princes in 3 weeks' time then.
So a very, very different atmosphere in terms of, like, it was very quiet, I thought, Old Trafford for a lot of that game, surprisingly so. I was not expecting that. I wasn't there, but that's what it sounded like on telly. And in essence, I thought United were extremely nervy in the first half and then killed by the injuries in terms of the second.
Yeah, nervy, sloppy. I guess Ole talked about the lack of experience in the team, and I guess that's true to an extent. I mean, certainly players like Lingard and Rashford, Martial to some extent haven't played an awful lot of Champions League football, or at least not these big games on big nights, knockout football.
So who's in that side who's played a lot of big games? Pogba, obviously.
Pogba, David De Gea has been
Has he?
He's been long enough at the club that he played under Fergie, didn't he?
Yeah, but so he played against Real Madrid in that season and Bayern Munich. So he's done it probably twice. Played a big team at Old Trafford in Europe.
I guess so. Yeah. I mean, it's a commentary on the extent to which United have fallen over the last 5-6 years. So, but, I mean, yes, fair enough. Don't know if that's entirely fair, and Solskjaer has done a very good job of protecting his players there. I do think some of the bigger names didn't quite turn up, as we wanted them to. And the injuries certainly impacted on United. I mean, it was a reasonably even first half, wasn't it? I mean, certainly United weren't able to really put any attacking patterns together. It really didn't create anything in the final third. I mean, throughout the whole game, but first half too. Were reduced to shooting from longer range. It broke down far too easily. They weren't able to get Anthony Martial into the game at all. Pretty ineffective from fullback, and they were always subject to PSG breaking. But I mean, basically had no defence against PSG breaking fast during the first half. And then after the break, I mean, obviously the two injuries have disrupted the game plan significantly. Ole's game plan is based on speed and attack, so speed of transition, and that was definitely impacted. I thought we made a mistake because I think Lukaku should have come on the right-hand side rather than Mata, because it would have kept the fullback, Bernat, back, and it might have, I don't know that it would have made a big difference. Who knows? But it would at least given PSG something more to think about. I kind of felt that once they had the confidence that they had Rashford under control, 2v1, and that United weren't going to turn them around in fullback areas, that they could push 15 yards further up the pitch. And they really did. And they just compressed United much, much more. I'd have been tempted to just go a bit longer, bypass I'm not saying hoofball, but just bypass the midfield occasionally just to give them something else to think about. So that was mistake one. Obviously, Alexis put in just an awful, awful performance on the other. Just so bad. I don't think I've ever seen him that bad, and he's been pretty bad for United, but everything bounced off his shins. And United just weren't able to stamp any authority in midfield. So, I mean, in the end, beaten by a much better team. But just a few little question marks. Perhaps the first time that Ollie's made a couple of little mistakes in his time at United.
So I think my analysis is quite different to yours in a number of different ways. I think the first thing I would say is you're saying like almost kind of implying that a lot of players in that team have had big game Champions League experience or a substantial amount, and that almost the inexperience shouldn't have been. I didn't know that Solskjaer had mentioned an experience. It was something that I'd thought myself, and it really jumped out at me because I think if you go through the team, De Gea, let's say, has had a bit, but not very much. I mean, they've played at World Cups and stuff, and they've got big game experience, but the sort of specifics of this kind of environment of, a big European night at their club, well, obviously, like neither Lindelof nor Bailly have experienced that given the level that they played at and the expectations on them at that level. Young, did he play against Real Madrid? I can't remember. But he certainly hasn't got a wealth of that kind of experience, and probably literally none at fullback. Luke Shaw obviously doesn't have any. Herrera played for Bilbao in some big European games and some very successful European games, but always as a kind of underdog and not in that environment. And I think probably I don't actually know about how much Matic played in big games for Chelsea, but let's say he and Pogba have both got substantial experience on that front, and then none of the front three have. So that's a massive deficit in experience, and that was the thing that really showed. I thought really was the story of that first half, because really the problem in the first half wasn't structural, it wasn't systemic, it wasn't tactical. It was about execution in the final third, and I think you can kind of maybe ask some questions about Solskjaer in terms of the state that the team were in emotionally when they were, in that first half, because there was just so many overhit passes, people trying too hard, just there's generally a lack of kind of composure. A few people have said this, including friend of the show, Ryan Lockwood, who emailed about it, that it kind of was reminiscent of United's early forays in Europe under Ferguson. And that's kind of what I thought. And then I think he should have brought on Lukaku for instead of Sanchez, because even though they could have both pinned back the fullbacks, Mata at least is like a functionally competent footballer, and Sanchez is just completely shattered into a million pieces. So I think while I kind of see what you're saying about kind of tactical balance, I feel like the insane drop off in quality of having Sanchez on the pitch was really telling.
Yeah, it was. I think it would still cause United all sorts of tactical problems. Putting Lukaku on somewhere, where would he have gone? Left hand side, or are we dropping Rashford into midfield? So, take the point about the inexperience, but
did you say are we dropping Rashford into midfield?
Yeah.
No, we're not dropping. Not suggesting. You could have played Lukaku right, Mata like dropping off centrally, and Rashford on the left, and play Mata as a kind of false nine, or in that Lingard role. I'm not saying that would be a great solution, but
removing Rashford from the centre forward position. So, yeah,
but okay,
it doesn't look like we're getting in the weeds here, but I just don't think that looks balanced to me, and it probably would have been even worse. Just my opinion. The experience.
No, I don't think it would have been even worse than not have Alexis Sanchez on the pitch. There's no way we could have been. You play Lukaku wide left, and we look better than with Alexis Sanchez on the pitch.
Yeah, and you have two people running at United's right-hand side full-back, which was one of the weakest points. Anyway, I want to have a go at a few other players before, we can move on from this debate, because it's kind of pointless, I think, since it's already gone. Young was truly dreadful, and
so bad,
and not just he's so bad in very obvious ways. It wasn't any kind of outlet for United in an attacking sense, and got turned repeatedly. Just ripped a new one constantly, but also just positionally all over the place. I mean, he's just not helping out his player on the right-hand side, whether that was Lingard or Mata,
or Rashford, as it often was.
Or Rashford. Certainly early Rashford dropped into the right-hand side, just caused all sorts of problems for United. So, really bad day at the office for Young. Obviously, one of the positions that United have to strengthen in the summer, no matter how good Dalot might become, it would be completely negligent to not buy. And talk of offering Ashley Young a new contract is somewhat worrying.
He signed.
He signed.
He signed a year extension.
1 year extension. Yeah.
Not 2 years, though. And I think that's fine, so long as he's not first choice if we play Real Madrid or Paris Saint-Germain in the knockout stages of the Champions League next season.
Yeah, I mean, there's a debate to be had about whether the club now believes that, given Ole has stabilised things, they really need to invest at the kind of levels. I mean, there's some irony in that, isn't there? Mourinho gets sacked for doing an awful job and giving them a hard time, demanding gazillions in the transfer market. Ole comes in, stabilises things. United win enough games to qualify for the Champions League next season. Club decide that they don't really need to spunk £200 million in the transfer market. Much better to go into dividends for the Glazer family.
I heard on the Second Captains podcast, I think it was Dion Fanning, the Irish journalist, say something like, one of the problems is, of course, would Solskjaer be a bit too acquiescent, sat in the boardroom opposite the Glazers, if they said they didn't want to spend too much money, or compared to someone like Pochettino? I'm like, sorry, did you just say compared to Pochettino? How's he doing at forcing his board to spend money? The literal £0 they've spent in the last 18 calendar months.
Yeah, so Young, really, really bad. Clearly needs replacing. On the opposite side, Luke Shaw, clearly not as bad. I think the worrying thing about, certainly not as bad defensively at all. It was just much more secure down his side. And the worrying thing is that he's not offering enough going forward. And we had this debate, didn't we, last week, where it looked like that and he'd put up good numbers. He definitely didn't put up good numbers against Paris Saint-Germain. And so
he did look good. He did look good against Fulham. I know.
Yeah, and he's got all the tools, right? And you just want him to put them all together. But in his 4 years at the club, he's rarely done that. And now he's in the team and fit and playing every week. There are no excuses, really, are there?
But if we leave the PSG game aside, obviously that's important, but it's quite a specific challenge. He has actually, and I know I've been like on my little "is Luke Shaw good" agenda recently, but he has been putting up the numbers, hasn't he? Recently, he has been.
Yeah. The question is, is it big enough? Is it Champions League winning or league winning big enough? And I'm not sure about that one. Certainly some competition in that spot, some high quality competition is what top clubs tend to have.
Yeah.
So, right now his competition is Matteo Darmian, Diogo Dalot, who can't really play there, as we've seen when he played there, he was cutting inside all the time, or Ashley Young, right? So there's not proper competition. So some competition needed there. Definitely. Matic, I know I say this every week. I don't have an agenda. For me, it's impossible that Matic plays in a title-winning United midfield. Just impossible. He's so far gone. I did a thing for ESPN the other night before the PSG game, previewing the Liverpool game with someone from the Anfield Wrap, and we got to talking about Matic, and he was having a laugh about Matic and saying how bad he was and built like a tank, turns like a tank. Well, he's not built like a tank, is he? He just turns like one. It's just embarrassing, honestly, how Chelsea duped United into spending £40 million on this guy. They knew he was done, and everyone's going, why did they sell him? Because he was done. That's why.
And he's been fine to good in the games where he's not under any pressure. And this is a point you observed, isn't it? That actually Mourinho was kind of hanging him out to dry too by not giving him anyone ahead of him to give him any kind of help. And so I think we could certainly have him play 2/3 of the games in a league season and win the league.
And he looked good
theory.
against Fulham, didn't he? He looked good
Yeah,
when he's on the
absolutely.
ball and he has time and he can pass it around. He's very nice on the ball. And he doesn't get people running past him because a team like Fulham is not going to commit that many players. That's all right.
But PSG was a whole different story. In a kind of more positive note, I thought Ander Herrera acquitted himself really impressively against PSG, and he was absolutely superb against Fulham. Just here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah,
I mean,
and that's
I
what we want from Ander, isn't it? So
yeah.
And then Pogba couldn't. It's like there's no super criticism of Pogba, but it's that kind of night when you really want him to come good because he's the best player, and
he nearly did a couple of times in the first half. There were a couple of moments.
It was all nearly, wasn't it? It was all
yeah,
nearly,
exactly. And obviously, like his production's been off. I mean, talk about Ander Herrera being good against Fulham. Pogba was unbelievable against Fulham.
Oh, he was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, like best player in the league status in
Yes.
that game. I mean, I know you can't judge that on how they play against Fulham, but I'm sure KDB or whatever looks very good against Fulham. But he was absolutely spectacular in that game, and he definitely wasn't like a bottle job or anything against PSG. I think he got pretty frustrated, and
because they
haven't
put
even
2 men on him. I mean, Marquinhos, came off the pitch smelling of him. Because he was so close to him, and they also had another man around him all the time, so it gave him no space to play. And United didn't have enough good ball to give him the opportunities further up the pitch.
I'd just like to congratulate both of us on getting to the approximately 25-minute mark in this podcast before mentioning the referee against PSG. I mean, goodness,
it was really frustrating. Obviously, gave away a lot of cheap yellow cards early in the game, which I think you correctly observed on the WhatsApp group. There's no way this is finishing 11v11, it felt very much like that, didn't it? I mean, Pogba's been pretty stupid. I think a really cheap first yellow card, and then the second yellow card, it's mistimed. I mean, if you slow it down and do a still, there's a few journos and non-United players non-United fans or the few flat earthers that are still around that hate him were doing to try and suggest that he took the player out halfway up his shin, then fine. But it wasn't that. It was a mistimed tackle. But the real frustration was Kimpembe, having been booked, committed 2 really cynical fouls, one pulling back Rashford, which would get you booked all the time. I mean, all the time, and the referee bottled it and didn't show a red. And it's perfectly justified in showing Pogba a red if you're going to then show yellows and reds for similar crimes, right? Perfectly justified in sending off Pogba if you're going to do it for everyone else. And he didn't. And the bloody player went and scored. Of course he did. That's one of the other things that feels like Fergie 95 to 97 in the European Cup, doesn't it? That kind of thing seemed to happen all the time. They bought, and actually, one of the things that Ole talked about in his post-match press conference was experience, but specifically, he said they bought a lot of cheap fouls, and we didn't know how to do that.
Yeah, so. I was thinking that actually. That's funny that he said that, because this is something that I'd thought as well. Watching the game is like, we are not playing them at their own game enough.
No, because there was one occasion where Lingard got hacked down in the corner, attacking corner, down the left, and he kept on his feet. I was like, go down.
Yeah. And especially when this is just classic. You can't in the Premier League. None of those are yellow. Like half the yellow cards in that game aren't anywhere near yellow cards. Not like the Premier League is what it was in 1995, but still now it was really just like we didn't play the game. We basically weren't playing by the rules that were being applied in that game. We were playing by a kind of different set of rules, and I did think inexperience was kind of a factor in that. The Kimpembe goal, you'd kind of spoken a number of times, let's say euphemistically, on WhatsApp about how Kimpembe possibly should have maybe not been on the pitch by that point, and he peeled off Matic. And I was like, this is the perfect Ed agenda goal. This is Kimpembe scored it, and it was Matic that he exploited.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I can criticise Matic too much for not picking up someone at the corner. I don't know whether he should be marking that player at the corner, really. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, just goes to show, like, everything that could go wrong with that game did go wrong. So the
Yeah.
injuries and, my opinion, not quite making the right substitutions, the sending off. And so, it added up to one of those really miserable European nights that we were used to many years ago. I guess we've been used to them we would have been more used to them over the last 5 years if we'd bloody qualified for the European Cup as often.
The one of the things that I thought about was that even the substitutions, it is a really difficult hand to be dealt, to have to replace Lingard and Martial at the same time at half time in that game. And so maybe if this was Mourinho, I'd be like ranting and raving about what an idiot he is for these substitutions, and that I acknowledge that there's probably some likability bias here, but I feel like they are completely understandable mistakes, albeit they are, I think, whichever way round you slice it, one of them two should have been Lukaku. But the thing is, even saying that though, of course, we are really only then talking about tactics, because Lukaku's been absolutely bobbins. Like, he played against Fulham, right? I think he played from the start, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
And I was at this game, and I can't remember whether Lukaku started. Like, that's how kind of anonymous.
Well, I actually don't think it's too bad a tactic if we wanted to get playing back into form, to play him on the wing at all.
No. I don't think that's a bad tactic.
I think you do a pretty good job there, actually.
Yeah.
So.
But I mean, he could maybe he could do a pretty good job there. Sometimes he does.
Well, one of the other things, I mean, we talked about the substitution impacting United's attacking output. It also impacted their defensive output, because from 10 seconds into the game, you could see that pressing high up the pitch was really important, putting very good players under pressure. That dropped off hugely after the second half. I mean, look at the passes per defensive action data. Sorry, it's really nerdy.
I should never have told you about Y-Scout.
No, they only have part of the data there.
Okay.
I did look it up elsewhere though. So basically PSG are allowed a lot of passes per attempt to intercept or tackle after 45 minutes, and that just wouldn't have been part of the game plan. It's one of the great things about Ole's revolution, is that he's got United actually pressing and putting the opponents under pressure, because it definitely wasn't happening before December.
No, and it's made such a huge difference. It's one of the reasons we're fun to watch. I mean, it was the story of the game against Fulham in a lot of ways. It was just every time they tried to get the ball out, we were on them. Like, it was Luke Shaw and Herrera seemed to break up almost every attempt at a counter-attack. And against PSG, this is not something I said on the preview here, but it's something I've said to a few people ahead of the game, was one of the absolute keys is we have to let, like, this is football cliche in a way, we have to let PSG know they're in a game. And I don't mean by like putting two footers in. I mean by pressing high, by being aggressive, by demonstrating a high level of skill and ability, because they're just not used to playing against good teams. So you've got to show them.
It wouldn't harm to kick him a bit as well.
Well, it would, because the referee wouldn't. You couldn't. Like, you're never going to get away with it. Like, the referee clearly was not the kind of ref where that was going to be possible. So, but you've
got to let these foreign types know that that you're there. Good old British action.
But I don't mean it in a British way. I mean it in the sense that because PSG play bang average teams all the time.
I know what you mean. Yeah, I know. Yeah, no, they're almost never under any kind of pressure, and they lost to Lyon the other week because they played a weird back three system, and funnily enough, the kind of weird back three system they played against us, but and had a really off day. But there you go. And anyway, you got any hope for the second leg?
I mean, I think I would have like a little fragment of hope if Pogba hadn't been sent off, but I think without Pogba, that is a massive, massive ask. It was annoying.
Fred coming in, or former manager's player of the year?
McTominay. One of the annoying things was how good Angel Di Maria was in that game. It was incredibly predictable. Because Angel Di Maria was really good, and United fans don't seem to want to acknowledge that very often, but it's clearly the case.
Yeah, I mean, I think if he'd left and said, sorry, it didn't work out, and went to PSG and kept mouth shut, then he wouldn't have been jeered quite so much. There's been plenty of bad United players who've gone away to another team and didn't get booed. Phil Neville never got booed.
I know, but he
Howard never got booed. There's tons of them, and
he didn't. He didn't get booed because he was bad at United. He got booed because of complaining about being treated poorly and being really
that's what I'm
unprofessional.
saying. That's what I'm saying. Exactly that.
Yeah, but that's dumb because he was treated badly by an idiot, by an egomaniacal nightmare who treated him like dirt. And it probably shouldn't have extended that to the whole club. And he definitely, I think, probably if he hadn't walked off not turned up for pre-season training, but also Van Gaal massively threw him under the bus. Van Gaal succeeded with Di Maria where Mourinho failed with Pogba.
Yeah, that is also true. All right, so we're out of the European Cup. At least we've got the Premier League top 4 chase to look forward to in very Arsenal style. We're fourth.
That's unbelievable. I can't believe that City beat Chelsea by so much that we've got better goal difference than them now.
I know. It's pretty interesting. Actually, I mean, given that Chelsea, along with Arsenal, very much in this race for fourth, and looking at the fixture list, who do we play at Old Trafford on April 27th? 2 games from the end, Huddersfield and Cardiff to close out the season, guaranteed 6 pointers, 6 points. But Chelsea, that's going to be a tasty game, perhaps. God, it's so Arsenal. It's really depressing. But we're on the climb back up to actually fighting for things that matter, not fourth place. Before that, Chelsea again in the FA Cup, which is going to be a bit tasty too.
Should we do some Twitter questions and then preview that game?
Okay, let's take some questions. Alex Dixon, friend of the show. Why do you think our fans only seem to be able to operate in extremes? One poor game and the wheels are off the Ole train, but likewise a month of positive performances and he's greatest manager since Ferguson. Love Ole, but the rhetoric around him at the moment. ... It's not a question, Alex, but what do you think about this? I mean,
the first part was specifically a question. It says, why do you think our fans something?
Only seem to be able to operate in extremes. Well, I think we're fairly reasonable on this show, although you did fully dive into onto the Ole bandwagon quite quickly.
Yeah, I'm still firmly on board and happy to be so. But it's not because I think he's the greatest manager of all time. I think it's because, it's for a whole bunch of different reasons. I think that this is a 21st century society problem. I don't think this is a Manchester United fan problem. I think every community that has a large online presence is like this. I also think get off the internet and interact with actual humans and you'll find it's not quite so much like this.
They are humans on the internet. They are humans.
No, but they're humans through a filter. Of course, there's plenty of reactivity in the real world, but it's massively amplified through,
of course,
social media.
Richard Fogg, he's a friend of the show. Doesn't often write in, but actual friend, real person. See, I know this person in actual real life. He listens with his 9-year-old, so he doesn't like it when I swear. So, or more to the point, it's okay when I swear. It's not okay when Tom doesn't bleep out the. Anyway, sorry. Why did it have to end?
Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it? It's a real shame. That was the interesting thing about that game was being super sad after a United loss, but not because you just hated the team and couldn't see when any joy would come again.
Yeah.
But because you had some hope and it didn't work out.
No, that's right. I think it's one to put into the perspective bucket, that one.
Yeah, for sure. And the reason it had to end is because as George Harrison once said, all things must pass.
They must. Except all things mustn't pass when it comes to the United team because they're pretty dreadful at that against PSG. Anyway, Harry Riddick says, on a scale of Falcao to Liam Neeson, how finished is Alexis Sanchez?
Oh, God. I can't believe you picked that question.
Are you suggesting that we all run around with a bat waiting to bash Alexis Sanchez? I mean, he couldn't be any worse, could he?
I don't really feel comfortable.
Should we have a whole conversation about Liam Neeson? Interestingly, there is a football-related angle to this because John Barnes came out and very eloquently defended Liam Neeson, which was interesting, I thought.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Alexis Sanchez is
he's
finished and
He's
bad.
done. He's done. Wouldn't it be nice if someone actually kidnapped Alexis Sanchez so Liam Neeson could go off and try and find him, and we could just get the insurance and spend it on a decent player?
It's such a. I mean, I saw somebody say something. It might have been an email actually that I got, which was like, "What happened to the Alexis we thought we were getting from Arsenal or something?" It's like, did we really think that? I mean, what we were hoping was that Alexis's last 6 months at Arsenal were because he wanted to move.
I'm quite sure we had this debate.
Yeah,
about
so
how good or bad Alexis was going to be, but yeah.
I mean, I spent weeks saying I really, really hope we don't sign him, and then I got really excited when we did, because I'm fickle. But also, this is not in the least bit surprising. He's Rooney'd. That's literally on the scale of how finished he is precisely Wayne Rooney 2015. That's exactly how finished he is.
Interesting how Rooney's become a verb. And not in a good way. But there you go. On a similar theme, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much better is Bebe than Sanchez? That's Chris Smith, and that's harsh. Coming back to a previous theme, Noah Horner says, did Di Maria really deserve all that abuse?
No,
Seemed like
absolutely
Sour Grapes.
not.
I don't think Sour Grapes is the right thing because he was booed before PSG beat us. I don't think he deserved all that abuse, but I don't think he'd have got it if he hadn't been quite so vocal or seemingly vocal. You know, he's probably asked about it an awful lot. Anyway, he's got a real question. Also, speaking of United flops that are doing well, would you take back Memphis?
I mean,
there is an option, isn't there?
Apparently not. Like, apparently,
No, I thought there was.
No, apparently when you move to a French side, it's literally against French contract law to have a buyback clause in the thing. Apparently, I'm not an expert on French.
Everyone reported there was an option at the time. So
yeah, and then there was this whole like batch of counter reporting saying, well, there can't be. So I don't know. And it's a difficult question because the problem is, I would if he wanted to play wide right all the time, but he doesn't, does he? So
yeah.
I genuinely think kind of peak Memphis would be a brilliant option for us wide right now.
Yeah, I think not. And as we discussed in our bonus content in a couple of weeks, or sort of, I've actually, if you're interested, Paul, in our Wisecat account, I've put a bunch of players that I'm kind of interested in there.
We've entered a new level of nerdery on this podcast, I am very, very here for it. I just want to make that clear. I'm here for it.
I'm picking that batch right now. Okay. As players I think who will be good. Let's follow them. See whether that's right or not.
Awesome. We should definitely do some sort of content around this.
Mika Latonen, friend of the show, says, how impressive was Ollie's post-PSG reaction compared to Jose's antics? No whining, no moaning, nobody's thrown on the bus, composure, determination. We're Manchester United and we always bounce back. How does he keep saying perfect things? He did say that.
Ole Gunnar Solskjaer say that we're Manchester United? What? Wow, I can't believe it. I heard that he said something mean about Sanchez. Is that true?
I don't remember hearing that at all, no.
Okay, right, fair enough.
I might have missed that bit. Anyway, I thought he was very composed, very determined, said the right things in terms of, look, he said it's a tough mountain to climb, but we're going to give it a shot, and if we're 1-0 up at half-time, I'll believe that we can do it. He did say, it's a bit of a cliche, we'll always bounce back. Not sure I like that one, but I kind of get it in these circumstances. He said a lot of very good things about learning from this. He talked about inexperience, and that's true of some players.
Almost all the team.
Well, I don't know if that's true. I really don't. We can count it. David De Gea has played 40 European Cup games.
No. We're not talking about European Cup games. We're talking about comparable experiences.
Yeah. We should go through the PSG side and see how many they've got. Anyway, he talked about that, and I think he said the right things, but we wouldn't expect anything else from him, would we?
No. I mean, he's. In the non-trivial skill of being a good public face for Manchester United that the fans can care about and engage with, who might actually say some of the things we want to hear because he genuinely believes it from the tippy of his toes to the toppy of his hair. Like, he's great. He's absolutely great at that. And it, it is a huge part of his appeal, and so it should be. It's not cheap PR if you really mean it.
Yeah. Other than Young smashing Di Maria into the rails, says Unsullied, rather sullied by this question, although I do approve. What other positives can we take from last night's game? Well, there's a bit of experience, can learn from that, I hope. I guess we certainly got clarity about where United's weaknesses are. I think we knew already, didn't we? But they were ruthlessly exposed. I mean, brutally exposed last night.
I meant to say this earlier. You can tell what PSG make of the debate between like which side of United's defence is weaker by which one they targeted. Like, it was relentless, that targeting of the. But the main positive about that for me was there were a few actually. Ander Herrera's performance. I thought the central defenders did all right in really difficult circumstances without a lot of protection either in front of them or on one side of them.
I don't think you could blame them for Mbappe's goal, really. I mean, he ran through the middle of them, but it was, he's just moving so quickly, isn't he?
Everyone that I've spoken to who was at the game was just like seeing him run fast in person. He's just insanely quick. He's obviously, it's difficult circumstances and they did all right. Herrera was good, and we were a little bit of composure and execution away from really getting at them in the first half, I thought. And that is quite significant given that when the draw was made. I mean, listen, right, we try not to go too hard on the Mourinho stuff, but the comparison, if assuming we go out in Paris, the comparison between losing to PSG in the manner that we have this season and losing to Sevilla in the manner that we did last season, it's just completely night and day.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I wouldn't try and draw an equivalence between those two. Completely different. Plus, Di Maria was smashed into the rails. I thought it was quite funny because he made so much of it until he realised that the ref wasn't sending Young off, and he got straight back up and ran around again. So
yeah, he was.
How many £100 million player signings are we away from competing at Europe's top table? Says Luis Figo. Look, I think we're clearly competitive in the Premier League once again. Beating Arsenal and Tottenham away says you're competitive. I think we are 4, maybe 5 very good signings away from a shot at the title. And a shot at the title in the Premier League means you're going to be very competitive in European football as well. And I don't think they all have to be £100 million signings.
No, and I think that's. I think we are some really heavy coaching away as well. That's the other thing, isn't it? It's not just signings; it's signings and coaching. And also, we keep talking about the players we need, but Solskjaer is going to look to the academy, and he should, and we should be, talking about like, okay, well, what about Ethan Laird at left back? And I'm not pretending to be an expert on these young players because I don't watch them that much. I'm basing my opinions on the people I know that do watch them a lot. But there is it's not just about buying expensive players. It's also about bringing through the right academy products in the right way.
The Solskjaer Appreciation Society, that James Boy says, do we give 3 or 4 youth players a chance in Paris? I don't think so. That feels destructive, self-defeating, destructive. One of those things anyway. This isn't over yet. I mean, plenty of teams, it's a very small chance, but plenty of teams come back from 2-0 down to win 3-2. Not many have done it away from home in the Champions League. Not many have done it at a team as high quality as Paris Saint-Germain. But there's still hope.
Yeah, absolutely. While there's life, there's hope.
Jason Gospel says, did Tuchel crack the Ole press? Can what PSG did to neutralise Pogba be used by Chelsea or Liverpool City in our upcoming games? Well, I don't think Tuchel cracked the Ole press because United were pretty relentless with it in the first half. They just didn't have the players to do it in the second half because Alexis is ruined and Mata, I think there are grannies who can run faster than Juan Mata. He's never going to press anyone, is he? So I don't buy that. Second bit, I mean, they put 2 players. They put one man marker and one always in the zone around Pogba. I don't think Chelsea or Liverpool or City are going to do that anywhere near.
And by the way, the only reason that they got away with that to the extent that they did was because of the changes in the second half. Because in the first half, Pogba was not nullified. Like Pogba, there was the one where he broke down the right-hand side and got into the box, and he flashed it across the box rather than cutting it slightly back. And that was just completely devastating movement and positioning from Pogba. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and I think even if Paris Saint-Germain had become dominant in the second half, without those injuries, United would have been dangerous on the counter, for sure, and Pogba would have played an important role in that. Will Robinson says, Will Robinson, as in Lost in Space, Will Robinson. I hope you're doing well out there, mate. When, if at all, this season will having Chong, Greenwood, Gomez on the bench over Alexis Sanchez simply become a case of naming our best available 18?
It already is. It already is. There's no.
I mean, Gomez couldn't be any worse than Alexis down the left. Greenwood's played almost exclusively through the middle this season, but he can certainly play anywhere across the front line. Chong, I mean, is definitely more right-sided, but we haven't got too many players there either.
Alexis Sanchez is bobbins. Like he's just.
We're stuck with him for another 3 years, aren't we?
It's mad. I mean, there's no. We have got to pay half his wages and send him somewhere. Like you better off. You just better off.
I think that's the Championship manager clause. We want him out. We have to pay the whole thing off. It's like, oh man.
I mean, we get some money from someone. He'd be great in MLS. Look at Wayne Rooney.
Yeah, they're not going to pay the fees though. It's going to have to be a freebie. You might get a fee from China. I mean, and in fact, I think on those wages, you're not going to get a fee at all. So. And
we didn't pay a fee. No. Just get him off the wage
bill.
Get him off the wage bill.
We paid a £30 million player.
Oh yeah, I forgot about him. I mean, £30 million player is a very, very flattering description, isn't it? Yeah. It's a very technical description.
Yeah. Luke Carroll says, "How do you feel about the succession of contract renewals for underwhelming players?"
Yeah, I was just going to say
10-year contract coming up. Jones and Smalling.
I was just going to say, obviously Smalling one we talked about ages ago, but I'm pretty sure we didn't. You earlier clearly hadn't spotted that Young had a year extension, and I don't think we've talked about Phil Jones's extension. Yeah. I mean, I think that they should have pulled the trigger on letting either Jones or Smalling's contract run out, because you're never going to get any money for either of them, and so what's going to happen is they're going to be at the club now.
I don't know that's true. I think a upper mid-table Premier League side would pay for either of these guys. So.
If only. I mean, if we can get rid of one of them,
maybe not on these wages though. That's. I mean, it'd be interesting. I wonder whether either of them got a pay rise or much of a pay rise.
I think Young is a completely reasonable 1-year extension. I think he'll play a lot of games next season, and that's okay because so long as you're playing them in the games where we can play to his strengths. He's been very good at periods this season. He's just not. He's very inconsistent, and he's a complete liability at the top level most of the time, except for the weird times when he isn't. He's a weird player, Ashley Young. A really weird player because completely negated Mo Salah last season, almost single-handedly.
Second part of that question was how much of a say do you think Ole had in these? Not much, I would say. I mean, cursory. I think this is mostly about asset protection, although clearly he's had a say in getting rid of Fellaini and binning Valencia.
That's what I was going to say about the thing, because there's no way Fellaini was going this January if Mourinho was in charge. So that's clearly a kind of manager and club in lockstep. So I wonder if I'd be surprised if that Woodward hasn't said, look, I'm thinking about this. What do you think? I'm sure he would have taken he would have sounded Ole out about it.
Yeah, but in the end, they're not going to lose an asset. How much would a woodchucker have to chuck Sanchez out of the door? Says Taylor Ben. Sadly, lots. Sanchez and Fred. Were Sanchez and Fred bought so City can't have them?
No, they were bought for the chant.
Yeah, apparently. Yeah, that's the only good they've done.
Isn't it mad that those
Mbappe
two players...
the fastest living creature on the planet? Says Jake Ulrich. He might be.
This is the best chant that United have had for years and years and years, and certainly the most beloved and kind of like the chant that's caught on the most for years and years and years. And it references Alexis Sanchez and Fred. Like that just does not make any sense.
Josh says, Matter, stick or twist, so talking to contracts. Yeah, hard one this, because, I mean, to replace him as a kind of creative player, it's going to take an awful lot of money. But what role is he playing? In this particular setup, I mean, we don't know how the manager, if it's not Ole and it's someone else, we don't know how they'll set up. Mata he was pretty bad in the second half. He's not always bad, though. You know, he's still got something to offer. So is it a 1-year contract? Is it a 2-year contract? What the kind of wage is? How much do you have to pay to get in a replacement?
It's a really good question. And I do think the manager thing is huge, because obviously there's just not a natural position for him in the way that Solskjaer wants to play. But if Pochettino's got the Spurs game on in the background here, and, you know, Christian Eriksen isn't exactly rapid, is he? And he plays every week for Spurs, and I wonder what Mata would be like under Pochettino.
Yeah. All right, we better come to a close, because we're running up to the hour. Final question. Stephen Lebrec says, Pep, Klopp, Mourinho, who'd marry or kill?
I'm not doing that question. So the Chelsea preview.
Just no fun at all.
The Chelsea preview.
I'm killing Mourinho, though.
Obviously.
I'm going to marry Pep, because that means I've got to Klopp, and I'd feel dirty. I'd feel really dirty.
I think there is actually a right answer to this question, but I do not want to engage with it.
Go on then. Come on. What's the right answer?
No, Chelsea.
Go on. So you're going to agree with the murdering Mourinho? I reckon.
No,
I'm looking in your eyes.
I don't think that's the right answer.
No,
I think if you think about it, it's pretty clear.
You can't kill Pep.
No, I can't. You've just that's it now.
Okay. So I've worked it out. So you're
logical deduction.
Klopp.
Yeah.
You can't marry Mourinho. God, that would be
a
misery. So you're marrying Pep, and you're Mourinho.
No, I want to make it clear that the sentence that you just said is so inaccurate on so many levels. But I think within the parameters of that game, I think that's the right answer. Anyway,
I'm glad I bullied you into that one. Let's move on, shall we?
You got to marry Pep. That's the key thing. Because although, God, that'd be a flipping nightmare. He's so off his rocker. Like
I bet his house is absolutely spotless.
He's just the most intense man. That game, we're now talking of Pep. They've just beaten Chelsea 6. Have Chelsea played again since then? I don't think. No, that was after the Fulham game, wasn't it? Unbelievable result. And Chelsea are completely rubbish. And I'm very reluctant to say this. I don't like saying what I'm about to say. But I'm going to be really surprised if they get it together against us, because they look. I mean, it was one of those situations where you just like watch it going, my goodness, I hope they don't sell Sarri before we play him. Sack Sarri before we play him.
Yeah, no, I know. And they could get a real. They do look a real mess, and they clearly haven't taken to Sarri ball. I mean, it didn't look that way earlier in the season, did it? And they do from time to time bounce back and get good results. You know, it's not like they're getting smashed every week, although they have taken a couple of big smashings recently. So it's, I mean, that was just totally shocking, that game. I mean, obviously City were 2-0 up or 3-0 up in about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Which obviously kind of ruined the game, and then they were allowed to just go and enjoy their football. And I don't suppose there's a team on the planet, and certainly not in England, that's going to be so dominant from that kind of position. And Chelsea players just didn't have the heart for trying to make a fist of it after that, you know, and Sarri is not translating well to them. So they are a mess. That said, it is at Stamford Bridge, and they seem to beat us there an awful lot. And Chelsea fans will definitely be up for it. And we do seem to stimulate good performances in that team, don't we? So I'm not feeling awfully confident about it, especially, of course, because it looks like Martial and Lingard will definitely be out of the game.
Yeah, that's huge, really. I mean, I'd rather that from the off against Chelsea than halfway through PSG.
Yeah, for sure.
You can think about it for a week. I mean, Chelsea have what can we say about the Chelsea conversation that everyone isn't saying? What on earth is he doing with Kante? Why is he so stubborn? They've got Higuain now, which makes a big difference, I think. Up front, you talked
Not
about
against
data.
City, it didn't.
No, but you're talking about the data not telling the story of Fulham against United, and the data doesn't tell the story of City against Chelsea either, does it? There was like a bunch of like really similar stats in that game, which was super duper weird. But the XG kind of does, given that City scoring 6, generating 4 XG. I've never known a team who, whenever they get a big result, you look at the XG, go, no, have they got lucky? And it's like, no, they generated massive amounts of amazing chances and scored loads of goals.
I mean, their default goal is tippy-tappy, low ball across the 6-yard area, score from 2 yards out.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, Chelsea were a mess in terms of how they're set up in midfield at the moment. They've got Jorginho, who garnered lots of good press earlier in the season when he was like making 180 passes a game or something.
Yeah.
But people have found him out, put pressure on him, and he doesn't make 180 passes a game, and they're definitely not incisive passes. And then ahead of him, you've got Ross Barkley, who I think is people had much hope for him when he was 18, and he hasn't progressed enough, and he's not mature enough of a player.
It's by no means a guarantee that Barkley will play, because it's between Barkley...
but he did against City though. So,
yeah, right.
Yeah. And then Kante in this sort of more forward role when he's like one of the best defensive midfielders on the planet.
Imagine if we could get them to swap us their main defensive midfielder again, because the new manager doesn't fancy him. Now there's 40 million I would spend.
Oh, for sure, but they'll probably do it in 6 years' time, and Ed Woodward will take him with glee. I mean, yeah, I mean, imagine Kovacic will come into the team rather than Barkley, but apart from that, they're going to set up the same way in midfield. I would imagine.
You know when Mourinho put Herrera on Hazard, he's got to put Herrera on Jorginho in this game.
Oh,
just sit Herrera right on top of him. And...
Or Lingard, just put him under pressure. Lingard's going to be injured, so he can't, yeah.
Yeah, no, and I sort of rather it was Herrera anyway, because we don't have to sacrifice one of our attackers for it, because they've got they've got Eden Hazard. That's like, obviously, like Pedro and Willian, neither of them are terrible, but basically...
Remember the time that Jose Mourinho wanted to sell Martial? I've mentioned his name again, and buy Willian.
The
Remember that one?
Higuain obviously means that they're not completely devoid of attacking capacity in the way outside of Hazard in the way they were when Morata was playing in the form he was in. But I think that's why I'd kind of rather put Herrera on Jorginho than Lingard, just because I think we can have a spare man and attack that way. It's going to be interesting. So what's the lineup going to be?
United or Chelsea?
United, because I think it picked itself against PSG, and I don't think it does this time.
No, I mean Romero, because he's the cup keeper. So Ole has said, yeah. I mean, I'd be interested to see if he wants to do that again. But I suspect he will.
He did it at Arsenal away. Why would you do it at Arsenal away and not Chelsea away?
I know, just to give yourself the best chance of bouncing back. But no, I think it'll be Romero. Yeah. And then Young, well, he's just so destroyed. So I would be really surprised if he plays again. He needs a rest. Although it would... does he, though? Because...
It's Monday night.
There's Monday night, and there's a gap to Liverpool on the 24th, and there's an even bigger gap to Paris Saint-Germain. So, yeah, maybe...
I mean, there's 2 games in between... There's 2 games in between Liverpool and Paris Saint-Germain, of course.
Lindelof plays... for sure, and then Bailly did all right. I don't see the reason to drop him now. I think it would be nice to see a longer-term partnership with those two, see if it is good enough.
Agreed.
And then Shaw in midfield, well, Pogba plays for sure.
I think it's Herrera, Matic, Pogba. I think that's...
Yeah, it is. It's always Herrera, Matic, Pogba. I'd like to see someone try something other than Matic, but...
But that's like mostly just based on PSG, right? I mean, I know to be fair, sorry, you're hating Matic's credentials are
Chelsea average possession is about 58%. So they're going to have a lot of possession in this game, just because of the way they play under Sarri. They almost had it 50-50 against City, even though they got smashed 6-0.
Yeah, so that's true.
They're going to have a lot of ball, and United are going to try and break from deep areas. And Matic is going to have to do the screening. So,
but Matic is good in the counter-attacking situations in terms of releasing that first ball.
He is there. He is on the offensive side for sure. So anyway, it is that midfield three, and I suspect Lukaku will come back into the team, and that means he probably won't play wide, and it's probably going to be Rashford playing wide in one of wide left or wide right, maybe wide left, and Mata comes in. So.
Nah, he's gonna play Lukaku right, Rashford through the middle. I mean, maybe you're right, and he plays Mata on the right. And if he plays Mata on the right, he's playing Lukaku in the middle and Rashford left.
But yeah, we'll see. I prefer him to play Lukaku on the right, obviously, and he did a good job against Leicester.
That means Alexis Sanchez.
It does,
and that is not a name that we want to be seeing on the no team sheets. I'll tell you what, if he picks one of the kids, I'll be over the moon for this. Play.
Give Angel Gomez a...
Yeah, play Gomez or someone.
He might play, but he could play Pereira. I mean, obviously Pereira's last outing was horrendous.
Yeah, but he won't play in that position, presumably.
No, wide left would be fine for Pereira.
Yeah.
He'd do a good job.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Interesting. Interesting. Big dilemma, because the obvious choice is Sanchez, but that's the kind of nightmare scenario, really.
Yeah.
So you're not that optimistic about this game?
No, I'm not hugely optimistic. I mean, although, why not? Why not? I mean, I'm like, let me rephrase that. I am not, this is easy, we're going to smash him.
Right.
Optimistic. Okay. I'm not, I'm worried we'll get smashed. Pessimistic. Okay. And the game plan should play out. I mean, I imagine that Chelsea will have a lot of the ball. I wonder if there'll be some interesting tactical innovations. Maybe it's pushing Herrera forward to put pressure on Jorginho to stop the flow of passes. I mean, 500 odd passes against City, losing 6-0, and it's always Jorginho that starts it. That is a way to get at them. What do they do about Eden Hazard? That's an interesting one. Now he's playing wide left and has a fall in Higuain. He's dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely, no doubt. But we've got danger people too. Rashford and Pogba will be able to link up again, as they've done time and time recently. But Martial's a big miss, obviously, and having Martial and Lingard both out is a problem. But if somehow
Alexis hat-trick is coming.
Yeah, if somehow we can get Lukaku right, Rashford through the middle, and another on left wing, I'll be happy. All right, I'm going to go with a 2-1 win to Man United for no reason.
1-1. Are there replays in the Cup this year?
They did away with one of the rounds worth of replays. It might be the 5th round.
Penalties.
Yeah, and we go through on penalties thanks to Alexis Sanchez. That's not what I think's going to happen. All right, thanks, listeners. We'll be back next week.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.